It's Sunday, July 15th, 1951. Klaus Martens and his girlfriend June Walker board a single-engine aircraft at the East Los Angeles airport. Their purpose is to attend a business meeting in the town of Blythe, California, which is approximately 200 miles away by air. They take off into clear skies, expecting a short and uneventful flight. But they never arrive at their destination, and are never seen alive again. Weeks later, their aircraft is discovered more than 100 miles off course, abandoned in the middle of the desert. Surprisingly, the aircraft had not crashed, but had been landed smoothly and deliberately on the flat desert terrain. It had remained in perfect working order, with sufficient fuel and a fully operational radio. Midday temperatures at the time reached 120 degrees Fahrenheit, meaning even if they tried to look for help, they couldn't have made it far without large amounts of water. But no bodies were found at the scene. Instead, investigators came across 2 sets of muddy footprints leading westward. They diligently followed these footprints for several miles, until they gradually disappeared into the vast expanse of the desert sands. Despite extensive searches conducted over weeks, no traces of Klaus or June were ever discovered. Subsequent search efforts carried out in months and years that followed also failed to produce any results or shed light on the mystery. So is it really possible for 2 people to just vanish into the desert, never to be seen again? Or is there something else going on? Something else we have yet to uncover? Let's dig deeper. The year is 1945. And just like many other American service members, Klaus Martens is awaiting his turn to come home after spending the last 3 years fighting during the Second World War. He enlisted at just 18 years old and went on to work in combat intelligence. After the war, he returned to his home state of California, when in July of 1947, he would marry his college sweetheart, a young woman named Nina Hess. By the year 1950, Klaus Martens had it all. His marriage to Nina, whose father was a prominent Los Angeles attorney, introduced him into very high-status social circles. Klaus worked as a salesman for a company that sold diesel equipment. He was also a member of the California National Guard and the California Junior Chamber of Commerce. Additionally, he developed a keen interest in flying, and quickly gained over 400 hours of flight experience. While visiting the Pasadena Hospital in April 1951, Klaus would meet 26-year-old resident nursing student June Walker. At the time, Klaus was in the process of divorcing Nina, and although still legally married, the pair quickly started dating anyways. On the day of their final flight, the pair arrived early to the East Los Angeles airport. Unknown to June at the time, she was not actually Klaus's first choice of company to bring along on the trip. A few days prior, Klaus had actually talked to his wife Nina, hoping she would join him for the trip and use the time together to work on their marriage. Nina declined, so Klaus asked June to come along instead, and she very happily agreed. While completing the final preparations before takeoff, Klaus strangely missed one key step: never filing a flight plan. Something you might do if you didn't want people to know where you're going. They taxied down the runway and took off into clear skies. However, when they didn't come back that evening, loved ones reported the pair missing, and the search and rescue mission began. When investigators stumbled upon the plane, they immediately noticed several puzzling aspects about the scene. Surprisingly, the aircraft still held fuel, and the radios were in working order, but no distress calls were received by nearby airports, casting doubt on whether the occupants had even attempted to seek rescue. A note was discovered that read, 5:45 a.m. Monday, started walking, heading due west on foot, accompanied by an arrow etched in the dirt indicating the westward direction. Surprisingly, the pair had left behind a compass and map, even though Klaus possessed expertise in navigation and map reading due to his military experience and pilot training. When following the trail of footprints, investigators found that at one point, the pair had crossed a road that, if they followed, would have led them to a nearby town only 20 miles away, but instead they continued into the desert. Why didn't they follow the road to safety? Klaus Martens and June Walker had several ways they could have called for help or even made their way back to civilization. When looking for further evidence on a 70-year-old cold case, it's proved extremely difficult. So that's why I decided the best way to move forward is to visit the scene of the crime myself. I reached the Barry M. Goldwater Range and began driving the 25 miles into the desert to the exact spot where Klaus's plane was discovered over 70 years ago. Out here, I immediately noticed numerous areas that could potentially serve as a landing spot. From the drone, you could see many clearings that were just wide and long enough to be used as a makeshift runway. Furthermore, I discovered the precise location where Klaus and June's supposed footprints were discovered, crossing the road, before continuing off into the desert. Being here today, it was evident that this was no accident. The road was very clearly well established, leaving no room for it to be mistaken as anything else. Lastly, from the landing spot, you can visibly see the modern-day border with Mexico, making this area a prime location for ditching an aircraft if someone wanted to escape the country. When all of this new evidence is pieced together, it transforms this case from a mere unfortunate accident to a deliberate vanishing act. However, one question remains. What or who were they fleeing from? Or perhaps, who were they running to?